This video contains intense scenes of horror, suspense, and disturbing imagery that may not be suitable for children under 13. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. Parental guidance is recommended for younger audiences. Please ensure that viewers are prepared for frightening content and themes. Some stories are so chilling, so unexplainable, they cling to you like a shadow long after the lights go out. Tonight, we'll uncover 3 terrifying stories, accounts of horror and the unknown that will haunt your dreams. But be warned, not all nightmares end when you wake up. Are you ready? Story 1. A Stranger in the Night. It was a stormy night in 1981 when Carl, a long-haul truck driver, found himself driving down a desolate highway just outside Chicago. Rain poured so hard it blurred the road ahead, and lightning occasionally lit up the lonely stretch. Suddenly, in one of those flashes, he saw a young woman standing by the roadside. She was soaking wet, her pale dress clinging to her frail body, and she was shivering as she raised her thumb. Carl, being a kind-hearted man, pulled over. As she climbed into the cab, she whispered a barely audible thank you and handed him a crumpled piece of paper with an address scribbled on it. She said little during the drive, sitting silently, staring straight ahead. Carl tried to start a conversation, but her answers were short and distant. When they reached the address, Carl turned to let her out, but the seat beside him was already empty. Startled, he jumped out of the truck and knocked on the house's door. An elderly woman answered, her face tightening when Carl explained what had happened. "You're speaking of my daughter," she said, her voice trembling. "She died in a car accident 5 years ago right on that very road." A chill ran down his spine, and he backed away from the house, almost missing the top step of the porch. With his heart racing, Carl jumped in his truck and took off. The elderly woman watched him speed away. She knew someone was coming to knock on her door today, for every year on the anniversary of her daughter's death, it's the same thing. At the nearest truck stop, Carl, looking pale and withdrawn, was handed his cup of coffee, which he could barely hold in his shaking hands. "Are you okay, mister?" asked the barista. "Looks like you've just seen a ghost." As Carl sat behind the wheel of his truck, he laughed to himself and never took that route again. Story 2. Eyes in the Darkness. In 2004, the Smith family moved into what seemed like the perfect suburban home in Michigan. It had everything they dreamed of: spacious rooms, a large backyard, and a quiet neighborhood. But soon, strange things began happening in their young daughter's bedroom. Every night, she claimed she heard faint whispers coming from her closet. At first, her parents dismissed it as a child's active imagination. One evening, the girl ran to their room in tears, refusing to sleep in her own bed. "It's calling my name," she whimpered. That night, her father, John, decided to investigate. As the house fell silent, he sat in his daughter's room, waiting. Hours passed, and then it began. Soft, unintelligible whispers came from the closet. The father, trying to be brave, approached the door and yanked it open. At first, nothing seemed out of the ordinary until he noticed something on the top shelf, a dusty, cracked porcelain doll with unsettlingly human-like eyes. The doll wasn't theirs. In fact, it was the same doll they found in the house when they first moved in, and had thrown away weeks ago, knowing their daughter didn't want anything to do with it. Suddenly, the doll's eyes lit up red, and it leaned forward whispering his name. The father jumped back terrified. He slammed the closet door, wedged a chair under the knob, and ran out of the bedroom. He tried to catch his breath and calm his nerves for a moment. Then, he heard a low metallic screech. He looked down and found that the doorknob was being turned from the inside. The doll was trying to get out. But how is this possible? The father removed an old skeleton key from his pocket that was left when they bought the house. He fumbled and dropped it nearby. The door began to open. Whispers of his name echoed in the house. With all his might, he pulled the door closed and locked it. The father ran and gathered his family. Without taking any belongings, they fled the house. As the father sped away, he looked back, and a shiver ran down his spine. The doll with its piercing red eyes was standing in the dimly lit doorway, still whispering his name. Story 3. Echoes Beyond the Door. In the 1950s, a young French woman named Margaret, with auburn hair tied in a bun and wearing a soft blue dress, set off on a trip across Europe, determined to give her ailing mother one last adventure. She picked up her mother from her home, helping her into the car as they drove to their first stop, a grand hotel in Paris. Margaret booked a beautiful room for them, complete with ornate furniture and fresh roses on the nightstand. Her mother, frail and pale, lay down to rest, coughing softly. Concerned, Margaret decided to fetch a doctor. She gave her mother a gentle kiss on the forehead before leaving. Within the hour, she returned with the doctor, a tall man wearing a brown suit and carrying a black bag. But when she reached their floor, her heart stopped. The door to their room was gone, replaced by a blank wall. Margaret, confused and panicked, begged the staff for answers, insisting her mother was there. The manager, now growing uneasy, told her no such guests had checked in. The doctor, concerned for Margaret's state of mind, asked her to sit down. "You may have suffered a shock," he suggested. "Perhaps you need rest." Margaret pleaded with him, describing every detail of the room and her mother. Finally, the doctor called for an ambulance, and Margaret was taken to a hospital for psychiatric evaluation. 2 days later, police arrived at the mother's home to investigate Margaret's claims. The house was silent, the air heavy with dust. Inside, they discovered the truth. Margaret's mother had been dead for weeks, having passed away peacefully of natural causes. The journey Margaret remembered had never happened, or perhaps it had, but only in the echoes of a grieving daughter's mind. To this day, the events remain an unsettling mystery, a haunting question of what is real and what the mind can conjure in the depths of despair. Some mysteries defy explanation, leaving us questioning what's real and what lies beyond. If these stories left you with goosebumps, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to A Twisted Mind. New horrors await you every week, so hit that bell icon and join us if you dare. Sleep tight.